Hi, I'm Quan Tracy Chair, and I'm here with Tavish Carduff, and I'm representing Belief is Not Required, Our Raw Material, and AstrORM.
And the Equal Minded Cafe.
And the Equal Minded Cafe is where we are. And it's fourth Wednesday, and we have our director, Marvell, taking care of business. And, there's been so much talk about this upcoming solar eclipse.
Tell me, what does it mean for us?
Well, it's April 8th. It's approximately 1:30 or so in the afternoon for us. I mean, I've already bought my solar eclipse classes, right? It means we're about 80% of totality. We still can't look directly at it. So there's the astronomical part. In terms of what it means for us, it'll be working through the signs of Aries, and it's the sun and moon in Aries, because the solar eclipse just means new moon, just hyped up, right? So eclipse blocked. So if the sun is blocked, right, then our consciousness, our now moment, how we collectively move through the world is blocked. So our past comes in full force. So eclipses run about every 19 years. So we can look back to like '05, '06, we can look back to '86, '87, and look at themes regarding that.
So, what do we expect on the other side of this one?
Well, I feel that what we're looking for in our Kansas City area specifically has to deal with our handling being catapulted into the world, onto the world stage, based almost winning, possibly doing what is called a three-peat. With the Super Bowl, we have superstar Taylor Swift. So we're the team to be hated, which moves to our city. And so there's a part of us that has to be confident about how we share ourselves. Before we get big and big and bigger, right? We still kind of have a hometown flavor, a salt and the earth flavor, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so part of that, do we lose that because we're more known now?
No, we don't.
All right, so Aries energy is all about, okay, no sign exists without other signs. So Aries is the first sign. Well, the last sign is Pisces. So Aries bravado or swagger could be a reaction to the Piscean where everything's connected and we go with the flow, and it's kind of a wu-wei non-action in Pisces where you just believe it all works out in the end. Aries has something to prove.
So you're talking like riding the wave of the ego through the seasons for the Chiefs and their fans and the organization.
Yes, and Aries ego,
even the future's up in question
yes,
right now
because of question one, and which will have been decided by the eclipse. But Mercury, Mr. Trickster, goes retrograde on April Fool's Day. Now, I think that this just Mercury playing jokes on all of us. So the planet that's more likely to give us the Freudian slip, to give us the actual intention coming out in our words, when Mercury is retrograde. See, the unexpected, there we have it. And
means you're saying something important.
Yeah, you heard that, right? I was saying something important. What it was, I have no idea. But the essential energy for us right now, as Kansas Cityans, with the Mercury retrograde, is to understand that eclipse season, yes, it happens on April 8th, but you could be feeling this kind of, do I have the right to exist? Do I have a right to exist independently from my mentors? Because Aries and Astro RM is the week of mentors that begins with every equinox and every solstice.
So I'm just going to switch cues because you brought Aries, you brought mentors together. So let's just break down like the essence of Aries. You had a question before we started that was, why are Aries so crazy?
Yes.
And I'm going to say they're not crazy.
No.
However, they appear that way a lot of the time.
Well, that's what happens when you are a pioneer, or when you're breaking out of what other people expect from you or how you've been conditioned. First, people don't believe it. They don't believe that's not really you. You're just being reactionary.
So let's throw out Aries qualities.
Okay. Pioneering.
Impulsive.
Direct.
Movement.
Loud.
Spark.
Brave.
Fiery.
Learning courage. So they can be really timid, which there are some, maybe about 20%.
And I'm going to take your pioneer full circle with leader.
Yes.
And I think leadership is the quality that gets lost in Aries because humanity has led us to something that believes we need to be independent and separate from each other altogether rather than be connected soul energy.
Well, yeah. I mean, even the campaigns of 2016 and definitely 2008 was I built that. Was a whole thing about entrepreneurship and people building things independently. That's a freaking joke. I mean, since we all use common goods to ship product, there's a number of ways in which we're independent. Yes, maybe with the idea or the initial spark. Hello, lawyer speaking about intellectual property. But however, you don't really get to be any type of societal success without other people helping. Other people, whether they're employees, whether they are social media marketing folk, whether they're just people who have a better sense about the detail than you do. You do. When it comes to helping sculpt how we talk about belief is not required, which is my site, vis-a-vis our raw material, which is drinking water, really paying attention to your breathing and understanding who you are week to week, the pillars that we have.
True.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just say, like Aries energy,
Yeah.
pull that back. It's very,
See,
it's headed one way.
Yes.
And what we have, two Aries rising people who, by all rights, should not get along very well, really.
That's what they say.
But we've played off of each other for so long that we can take two different ideas, completely different perspectives, and bring them together. So there's a collaborative effort into very pioneering spirits. I'm not, we're never going to blend into the same person, but your essence and my essence together, we bring a bigger set than either one of us brings singularly.
Correct. And some of that is to understand the Aries essence. You also have to look at what sign is 180 degrees away from Aries, and that's Libra. And so Libra's essence is equality, it's equilibrium, it's balance, and it's an air element. So the air energy brings in a level of let's talk about it, let's discuss, let's find something in common. And so because if Aries is too singularly focused, then it doesn't build relationships. And if Libra is too other focused, then it's just like they'll fall for anything. They're not standing up for a la codependency. So you need both. You need the Aries, let's get it done. Why wasn't it done yesterday?
And I think, in the actual astrological chart, the ascendant and the descendant fall Aries to Libra.
Yes.
It really is what's the self energy versus the collective energy.
Yes.
How do you maintain your own identity and be part of a collective?
And I like to think that your rising sign or your Aries, how you approach life, that's your mask or how you move. And then the Libra is your hangout. It's when you take the mask off and you're at happy hour or you're just sitting around the kitchen table and no one expects you to be anything but who you are. And so Libra, I think one of the strengths or essential energies of Libra is I accept you as you are. I don't just tolerate you, because tolerating can be, you annoy the F out of me, but I'm going to put up with you. Acceptance is, oh, that's where you're coming from. I may not want to go there with you, but at least I know where you're coming from.
So I think that line of Aries to Libra demonstrates that balance that we each, if we find it within ourselves, we're able to allow other people's Aries energies, their impulsive, personality specific behaviors like the Aries, the forceful part of every person.
Yeah, and once we, I think, give space to that, where we breathe before we react, and we pause and say, "Hey, let me at least see why they're doing what they're doing." Because after all, Aries is definitely a sign of action, and Aries is not acting. You know that there's some trauma, some wound, there's no goals. Hashtag no goals. You know, I mean, you know something is wrong when an Aries is not acting. You just, and that's why you draw them out through activities, and you draw them out through encouraging their pioneering energies. And in Aries season that we're in now, and particularly in Aries eclipse season, we all lean into the season we're in. You know, you can be a Gemini, Libra, Scorpio, Aquarius, whatever your sun sign. We have to remember, or please choose to remember, doing this on Wednesday evening, you know, at whatever time we here, you know, it ain't necessarily my Aries rising cup of tea. Where I'm going with this this is the labor and the act of love based on wanting to bring a different vision, that we all are Aries. We all have Aries somewhere in our chart. And when you castigate one sign, you're castigating yourself. You talk about what you don't like about Aries, then I look at you. Now, my Scorpio looks at you sus and goes like, "Oh, so you don't have any pioneering creative spark that you're willing to jump out on a limb regardless of what other people think." You're like, we're in the 8th grade and nobody got out on the dance floor until one person got out on the dance floor. That's Aries.
Well, let's just talk like independent spirit.
Yes.
Aries, independent spirit.
Hey, bud.
And so we admire people with an independent spirit.
Yes.
At the same time, if we are triggered in any part of ourselves, it's very hard to receive that energy without thinking that it is too much somehow.
And they can be too much. Let's be clear. But we all can be too much when we're passionate about something.
Absolutely.
You know,
there's an absence of reason that happens at a certain level of emotional.
Now that Cicero, that Franklin, that sounds like one of those old white people.
That's human. Okay. I mean, I'm sure that goes back to Ra.
Okay.
Right?
Ra, the sun god. Okay.
The sun god. Like I'm of the belief that we create our weather by our emotional collective behavior. So
you won't get a pushback
talk
on
about
me for
letting
that.
Crazy out. I'm an Aries rising, so there's a crazy thought for you.
Well, there is an asteroid that they do credit with weather, and that's Juno. So
does Juno absorb all of our collective emotions?
She was the one who was always going after Zeus, Jupiter, when he was impregnating all those different women.
Going after in what way?
Oh, she fucked up with Hercules. I mean, she would go after his progeny. The demigods that were produced with the women that he and that
sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she was I think Shakespeare, the Taming of the Shrew is loosely based on the myth of Juno, Hera, the wife of Zeus. I'm
full of song lyrics. Anything I was forced to read in school did not stay with me.
Oh, I just can remember this. Moonlighting did this show where they alluded to, or they worked it, where the Sybil Shepherd character was the shrew in Taming of the Shrew, that Shakespeare. So that's where I got it from, a totally comedic show 30 so years ago.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So it wasn't that I read a whole bunch of Shakespeare.
So Aries.
Yes, and Aries season.
To the contrast of Libra. It's the balance of the self. And if we want to even draw it back to freedom and liberty.
Yes.
That was one concept that was always really difficult for me. Where does freedom meet liberty, and whose liberty and whose freedom is more important than anyone else's? And those concepts seem to me to come against each other so hard. Mm-hmm. And that's what our legal system tries to regulate.
Which Libra the scales.
We're bothered by Aries because that is the energy that pushes conflict.
Yes.
It's the energy that forces one will against another will.
Yes.
And I think when you see Aries acting crazy,
quote,
they feel crazy.
Yeah.
They feel cornered in some way. The frontal lobe has detached, and what you are seeing is a essential fiery reaction that is lacking reason and
can be pretty scary
yeah,
to those who are more conditioned to suppress that kind of bravado, swagger, animal nature, whatever you want to call it.
Fun fact, the only way to calm that behavior down is actual physical touch. Physical touch will reattach the frontal lobe. But without that, you're not going to get reason until this person gets away long enough to really calm down. So when you get people that are extremely wound up, if you touch them, they will even recoil. They don't want to be touched because that will calm them down. It's uncomfortable.
And if you use Aries, if you use our actual birth as a metaphor for Aries,
eclipse, new eclipse, right?
And so,
new moon.
But so you come out of the womb, and the first thing that is done a lot of times is the cutting of the cord or the touch. But the newborn needs to be touched, needs to be held, needs to be swaddled, needs to know that there is some contact after spending 8 to 9 months in an auditory kind of a Garden of Eden experience where all needs are being met. And so, of course, they're going to scream and go off.
Also, coming from somewhere where you're an essence that can go anywhere and have anything you want into a physical body that's limited to certain conditions that look scarier every day.
And for those of you who really nuance the way the astrological letters and language and all of that esoterically works, your rising sign is how you Aries. Let me just say that again. Your rising sign is how you do Aries.
How you show your
Aries. Yeah, how you show your rage, how you show your passion. Your that really beautiful nuanced line between bravery, courage, and just effing stupidity.
Like really the essence of creativity.
Yes.
Like the tip of creativity really is the Aries part of us.
Mm-hmm. So I know sometimes our having Aries rising, because we have the natural will is what it's called, we can look a little bit too smug because we Aries like Aries. I mean, there is a certain double down nature when you have Aries rising, and by extension, a double down nature when you have any fire sign on the ascendant, because the same element of passion and action and spirit, whether it's the Leo spirit of come to me because I'm the king or queen of the court, or the Sag spirit of I got some wisdom you goddamn need and you know it.
You just made me think of a point with Aries, which is we're so far into something that we assume that everyone else is carrying the same knowledge set that we are. We're coming from the same perspective.
That's a baby black Jesus
and
moment.
So
yes.
Yeah, I think it's really hard in personality to step away from Aries and see someone else's Aries as equally valid. Really hard.
Well, but see, that's where I lean into everyone really getting to know their human signs. That where are your human signs? Where's the Gemini in you? Where's the Libra?
They're all human.
But I mean the signs that have the human stories with them. Gemini, the twins, Libra, the scales, and then Aquarius, the water bearer. And then Sag is half human. Half human, half horse.
Oh, you're talking about the actual symbol.
The actual symbols of being human that are the mind, because the air signs are the mental signs, and that the mental signs, I think, give us that breath of pause, give us that ability to say, well, yeah, that Aries may appear crazy, but did you know this is what's going on in that Aries life? That's all I'm saying.
I think that's a good segue to the AstrORM thing, and we can talk from that space of what are the mental
pillars,
the signs themselves. What are the air signs? What are the fire? So from air signs,
we've got Gemini.
What are the qualities? Just the qualities.
The air energy is reasonability. Mediating qualities, searching for the humanity, searching for the story. I mean, one of the things I love about like Facebook and Instagram, and they have your story, and so the air signs are willing to pause to ask the questions about how'd you get here.
And also assume they already know the answers.
Well, it's paradox everywhere.
But especially with air signs.
Well, yeah, because because air signs are like the quintessential lawyer. That
I am one. I can say that.
Yeah, we're taught as lawyers, you don't ask any questions that you don't already know the answer to. That's kind of the bias of air signs.
And that's the insanity of lawyers.
Well, true that. Well, they're built on the patriarchal rock.
We push for curiosity in what we do, and they push for already knowing the answer to any question that they want. I mean, it's counterproductive to who we are as an Aries spirit.
Yes.
And so tamping down that Aries spirit is something that we seek to do in many ways, but also we want to express it. So the paradox that you talked about exists within each of our Aries being, our own individual one of 8 billion in the world.
Yes. And my favorite thing to say about one of my favorite things to say about Aries is that the planet that's often associated with them is Mars. And Mars takes about 26 months to go around the solar system. Anybody who's been around a 22, 24, 26-month old being knows what they're like. They're going to say no. They're going to establish who they are, independent from their mentors or their parents.
And it's their job.
Yes.
It's the growth period. So this eclipse is an opportunity for those of us in Kansas City to at least partially.
Yes. We're 80% of the totality, yes.
Cover and uncover, like maybe the cover is enough to when you uncover it, you see.
Well, first of all, this eclipse is aligned with Chiron. Exactly.
So
for everybody, and that's
so
the
our wounds are present.
Yeah, wounded healer. And when Chiron is in Aries, the wound is a warrior wound. The wound is the right to exist.
The deep wound.
The
essential Aries
wound. That original cut of the umbilical cord. And just as a fun fact, the 1776 chart for the United States, we have Chiron in Aries. So we broke away from a monarchy. That's an Aries act, right? But then our first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights. That was unheard of 240 something years ago. And so Aries, we're here to heal. Yes, I have a right as an individual, but you also have a right to belong to a community and be concerned about that community and be aware of your actions and how the consequences that can ensue from your actions.
And I think all of that ties to the original wound of if we are all one energy and we are all part of a collective, being separated and becoming a human being, period, is a wound in and of itself. So the Aries paradox is we are here to be a separate expression, but also be aware of our part of the collective.
And this is the lawyer part of me that says if you're attempting to heal, to solve a paradox with your left hemisphere or your mind, good luck. It's from the right hemisphere where the stories and the image and she said the Tantian. See how she does?
You got to get that in your body.
Yeah, it's gotta come down. But you have to be able. The right hemisphere. If I'm gonna do my lawyer pushback, the right hemisphere is where you at least admit that you don't know all of the answers. That your linear mind is there to play, to research, to communicate. The right is at least says, "Oh, let me tell a story." And the story, at least with our raw material, is to not only drink water, but to breathe, mofo. Breathe into the Tatian. Breathe into that. We got a question?
I do have a question. I wanted to ask, I know my little sister, she's an Aries, and I have always cherished her as someone who I've always viewed as strength or in the tarot, the 8, or at least the interpretation of where that strength will be, because I think it can switch up with another, I think 11.
Oh, don't worry about it.
But as far as strength goes, she was allergic to cats, and seeing strength where there's someone who's prying the jaws of a lion open, I've always been like, that's interesting. I've seen that level of strength associated with Aries, but on a spiritual sense. How would you discern or at least try to express war within with oneself and how you might interpret that? I've always found beauty in that concept. I know a lot of people think of Aries as being so boisterous and outspoken. With my little sister, it's always been a war from within. And when I see that cultivate itself into her own tools, not every war has to be fought with the sword and the shield. How would you discern it?
Well, you go with that?
I'll do a quick one, and then you can.
Please.
I think what you're describing is exactly what I'm saying about having that wound, feeling disconnected from the collective, feeling like an individual. So yes, we're here in a human body being an individual, but we're still wounded by the part of us that isn't connected, all of us together. So I think Aries people carry that specific wound as part of their essence. So if they're not wanting to fight outwardly, it's going to come from somewhere, because their belief system is constantly being challenged, because they're trying to remember that connection to that original space that feels good. We come into a human body, we are disconnected. We're asked to be our own individual thing when we know that what we came from is much more comforting. That's my take.
And through the animal nature, what I love about that strength card is that she's not beating the lion. She's not cruel to the lion. And by the interpretation, you don't know if she's closing or opening. But it's the fact that she's touching, which goes back to Tavish's point that when we kind of get wound up with our particular wounds, because I'm having this thought that I'm kind of throwing out there, that if you can talk about your triggers so quickly, then goddamn it, do something about those triggers. I mean, don't just oh, that's a trigger. Okay, now what are we gonna do about it? And that's my Aries rising and my impatience and my fucking wound. But where I'm going with this is that this eclipse is giving us all this ability to recognize that those animal instincts is what bring us together, which root us together, which we can just feel, oh, that person felt cornered, or that person doesn't feel courageous, and go from there. And it's funny that you talk about your baby sister, and you're a Gemini, which is definitely about siblings, So I just love the fact that you.
I gotta gas up her nonsense sometimes, because she had to. When I say she had to fight to get to a position to be outspoken, it took so long, and not a lot of people thought she'd ever be like that. A lot of people were concerned for her. Now,
and is she 25 yet?
She's a senior in high school.
Okay,
good. She has told her friends, "You can fuck off. I'm going to school here."
Because my general rule of thumb is that you don't really start to do your sun sign regularly until you're out of the house, until you're asking questions about your conditioning, and so she could still be under other influences. So, and you have your entire life to learn your sun sign, and you have and I feel we're living multi-dimensional lives anyway. So there is a time and space that our souls, our deeper connections allow us to live different, I don't want to say modalities. What's the word? Different.
I think that's a good word.
Different modalities. Yeah. And so your sister maybe just be ahead of the game. So Godspeed.
Yeah, I think to be able to feel very comfortable in your individual self, that is the essence of Aries.
It's something I enjoy just watching her, and that's why I'm excited to hear from an Aries perspective. That's why I wanted to ask, what is that? Because I've noticed it with her. I've always seen her as somebody who never was in conflict. Then she got older, and it wasn't that she was ever in conflict. It was almost like she was just triumphing over a lot.
Have you ever considered that you can, if you have internal conflict, that you can just draw upon her example, and then
little flames in my direction too.
Okay. You got
it. I've never been in question, because I think I've come to a good understanding of where I'm at. I've always been concerned that she would have her fire snuffed out before she even makes it out of the house. And I think now she is someone who a lot of our family members have said has some of the most confidence, and they're like, okay, you seem like you're ready for adulthood.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. So one of the things that we seek to do here at Equal Minded, Belief is Not Required, Our Raw Material, is to get not only have people come out and listen and comment and subscribe to Our Raw Material, YouTube, or Belief is Not, or Quan, Tracy, Cherry. Yeah, those are all physical things you can do. But if you don't remember anything else, just know we're all 12 signs. We have all of that within us in varying degrees. So when you don't like something about Aries, you can best believe you're not fully being authentic in somewhere in your life. Basic.
Or you're just not allowing duality. You're not allowing balance.
You're not allowing balance. I'll take that.
I think when we go real hard against something, there's always a balance in the other direction. We might not know what it is, but we got to allow that it exists somewhere.
Yeah, and I like that comment because there's a part of us that I don't feel that we do enough of allowing growth and evolution to be gentle. I think we feel like it has to be, because we call it growing pains. You know, how can it be gentle recognition of where we've gone to extremes and not getting bopped over the head or something?
A lot of breathing, a lot of open heart, a lot of allowing.
Yeah.
A lot of letting Aries energy be Aries energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a KC Mystic Fair at Stony Brook on April 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Nice.
Doing some, some tarot reads. I'm even going to have some solar eclipse classes that I'm going to sell to have people, because you might not have got them. They may run out. Who knows? It's the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Nice.
Even this. Do we have time for one more question or something? Or anything else?
Anybody? Question?
If not.
Astrological?
Okay. Well, we're good. You got anything else you got to say? Well, fourth Wednesday, the 24th of April. That'll be Taurus season. And the headstrongness of Aries easily bends into the willfulness or the perseveringly focused. Some people say stubborn, but I think that's too much of a judgment. I want another word for Taurus.
No, that's persistent.
Persistent. See?
How about? Yeah, I would give Taurus even like a solid but mystical. I mean, there's definitely a lot going on in that stoic space.
Yes, for sure.
That's Venus in there.
Oh yeah, and we know she loves to give beauty and joy and harmony.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We get caught up in the negative qualities. They're a lot easier to remember.
Of Venus?
All of it. Of any sign.
Maybe that's what the Aquarian age is about. Yeah.
We need the balance of what they bring.
That's why I'm constantly maintaining my
Otherwise, we're going to be mad all the time.
Yeah, spoken like a true Aries rising. Yeah, I feel you. And there's different types of anger. There's the righteous anger of protecting, say an elderly abuse.
Everyone thinks their anger is right.
That's why you need Libra to quantify and say, no, that wasn't righteous.
Yeah.
Not normal.
That's not normal. Well, first of all, I definitely want to say we appreciate and thank you for joining us. And this is it's evolving in its own space, as you said. Yeah. So this is definitely feels good. And thank you, Mr. Director.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.